This is the PR Podcast, a show about how public relations helps you tell your story to the world. We talk with great PR practitioners who have the skills, creativity, and just plain savvy to get their clients noticed. Now here's your host, Jody Fisher.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the PR Podcast. I'm Jody Fisher. Thanks for joining us. Well, don't forget to send us your PR Podcast plug. This is the cheap and easy way, it's free, easy way to promote something that you are doing. I joke around that I'm great at promoting my clients, but I'm horrible at promoting myself. Here's an opportunity to promote you and what you do. Now, it's not your 9 to 5. It's not that great hit you got for that client, even though we love that. We want to hear about your podcast. We want to hear about your social media channel. We want to hear about your TikTok, the book you just wrote, or the award you just won. Give us something we can love on you for. Send us a note to the PR Podcast. Hit us up on social media at the PR Podcast, or just send me an email directly, jody@jodyfisherpr.com, and we will give you a mention at the top of an upcoming episode. Now on with our show for today. We've got a hot guest. Paul Wilke is CEO of Upright Position based in Coachella Valley, California, where he and his firm represent B2B, tech, IPO, and travel and tourism clients. Paul also leads Walking Duck, a video production company that's designed to efficiently create owned content that seamlessly converts into earned media, social media gold, and paid content. Now, before PR, Paul was a reporter with the Delaware Business Review, which gave him a unique perspective on how all 3 points of the communications triangle operate and helps him tell compelling stories, garnering on-message media coverage, and providing sound strategic counsel. Paul, welcome to the PR Podcast.
It's great to be here, Jody. How you doing?
Paul, we're doing great. And I mentioned that we've got a hot guest here today. You're a handsome man, but you're also sitting out in California where you said it's going to be 115 degrees today.
Yeah, so that global warming is apparently a thing. It's going to hit 115 here in Coachella Valley, and I'm embracing it. I think I was a lizard in my past life, so I love the hot weather. I love the lack of humidity. It's great.
That's great. Well, we do hope you stay cool, and we do hope everybody stays safe. Because
Yes.
it can get a little bit dangerous when we get into that area. Tell us about now. You and I have similar career trajectories, right? We were reporters back in the big bad 1990s, and we converted into PR. Tell us about your journey from reporter to PR guy.
Yeah, so I was a reporter back in the 90s, like you said, and then one of the things I loved about reporting was sort of getting the early scoop on a story. And the deeper I got into journalism, the more I realized, you know where the story is being made. It's actually on the PR side. And I've always loved telling stories. I've always loved crafting stories. And I decided to go more to the source of the river, so to speak. And that's kind of how I got into PR. It took me all over the world. I lived, Delaware is where my roots are, but I did PR work in Singapore for 12 years, worked in-house at Visa there. They brought me back to the US. And then I did in-house for Splunk. And that sort of laid the foundation for starting Upright 12 years ago.
What are some of the clients or the types of stories that you've gravitated to over the years? What really gets the motor running?
Really great data stories. Now, I'll give you two things: data stories and stories that showcase that PR is not just about a press release. It can actually make a difference. I'm going to give you a great example of this. In 2004, when I was working in Singapore, there's that big tsunami that hit. And I was working in-house in PR for Visa. And we sort of, after the tsunami hit, we sort of huddled like, what can we do to make a difference? And Visa had all this great tourism spend data, people from the US coming into Thailand and they're spending X dollars in this week, this month. And we'd never done anything with it externally. So we were like, what if we cobble all this data for the markets that were impacted by the tsunami, give that data to the tourism bodies, to merchants, and then also to the reporters so they can see the trajectory of what a tourism recovery is going to look like for a place that's hit by a natural disaster. And that really resonated. And that was sort of when I realized, okay, I'm not just writing. We're not just gathering information to promote a company. We can actually make a difference here.
That is something that really hits with me because I love telling positive stories, sort of life-changing stories, right? And it doesn't have to be life-changing on a particular scale, but just something that means something as opposed to the fire or the car wreck of the day, right? And I think
Yeah.
that that's a calling that a lot of PR people follow. What are some of the ways that you have been able to translate and sort of seen the positive effect of your PR work over the year? I mean, have you run into situations where, you've placed a story or you've run a campaign and something has actually come out of it where you go, wow, we changed something there?
Well, I think that's the best example, and I've that's sort of been a template in my playbook that I've used over the years. Is where can we tell a story that makes a difference? And one of the things I've always said to clients is, it's not about you. You can announce your new office, you can announce your new product, but at the heart of it is, what are you doing to make a difference for others, or how are you connecting your customers with their audiences? And that's where the coverage comes from. And I'm a big believer in explaining the process and talking to our clients about what we do and why we do it. You know, I always say, sort of, my sphincter clenches anytime a client says to me, "We want to do a press release about this," and it's like, you've skipped a couple steps. Let's um let's talk about why you want to do this, and remember that press releases are a tactic, not a strategy. And let's step back. Let's look back. What are we trying to do? Who are we trying to reach? What's going to make a difference?
And that sounds so good to my ears. I talk all the time about how when you're releasing news or you want to get some kind of publicity or attention for something that you've done, you got to look outside the four walls of your organization. It's got to matter to people outside of what you are, what you do every day, your
Not about
employees,
you.
your
That's it.
exactly. It's not about you. So great. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Um, I love this concept that you have, and maybe we can segue into this off of that idea about the communications triangle, about how you set about creating a message, and then how you make it, sort of ping back and forth among the
Mhm.
3 points in that triangle. Give us that triangle. What is that?
Yeah, I call it the triangle of dysfunction. You've got the client, you've got the journalist, and you've got the PR person. So there's the triangle. All three speak different languages, and all three need and want different things. And when I started Upright, I recognized that lack of commonality in language, combined with the fact that very often PR people are the middleman. Um, so I was like, how do we smooth those corners of the triangle? And at the heart of it is, it's customized content that the reporter is interested in. It's language and data that resonates, and it's also, telling that good story. The other part of that is, and it's part of the challenge of sort of breaking the damage done by the triangle of dysfunction, is PR people by nature are people pleasers. It's a blessing and a curse. So, instead of like, "Hey, PR person, can you do this?" Our instinct deep in our soul is like, "Yes, of course we can do it. We'll do it," and run off and go figure out how to do it. Where in 8/10 of the time, you need to sort of kick the tires and say, "Okay, why are we doing this? Let's find a better way." And that's at the heart of the triangle of dysfunction.
That can be challenging to explain to a client. And I put it in the sense of, look, we have just as much interest in helping the reporter as we do helping the client, right? We got to be that middleman. I love that explanation. When you bring that concept to the client, though, they can be like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I've had clients over the years that bristle at too much counsel, and that's always been a challenge for us. Is, look, you're hiring us to do something, and we know what that is, and you know what that is. The path to get there, we're not yes people. We'll do what you want us to do more often than not. But if it doesn't make sense, we're going to find a better way, or we're going to hopefully show you a better way. You know, a good PR person is as much a therapist as a doer. One of the things that when I was at Splunk, the challenge I had as a PR person was the people around me didn't speak my language, going back to sort of the terminology of triangle dysfunction. They were all data people. They were all software people. They were all really smart, but had no concept of PR. And I couldn't riff with them on, and this is not to discount them at all. Just I couldn't riff with people that didn't understand public relations or communications. That's where my agency came in. We would bounce ideas. I'm like, okay, this person doesn't get what we're doing. How do we get them on board? So, they were as much my therapist as they were providing great strategic counsel and helping me do what I needed to do. And
Yeah,
and
the
I've tried to
counsel,
do that. I've tried to do that at Upright too.
the counsel is the big part. At its heart, we are counselors, even before we're communicators,
Yeah.
helping people make the right decisions and do the right things so that the communications and the publicity and the attention can follow that, because it typically always will. It never precedes it, right?
No, and it conflicts directly with that pin dancing, people pleasing persona that you have as a PR person. You've got to get that balance right.
May I have another? Please, please. Can we get that? But you know what? But here's the opposite to that. I find too is that you don't get what you don't ask for,
Yeah.
right? You don't you never get what you don't ask for, and you've got to be out there sort of pounding away and pounding away with the client too, forcing them to deliver the thing you need in order to tell the story that they want to tell, because sometimes they can be very whether it's lazy or just not know or whatever, maybe have a preconceived notion about, what PR is or how you're supposed to function. Here, put this in your news release and send it out. Put this in the paper, as it were.
Yeah.
The counselor aspect really.
And the other thing about that is some of my best clients have been the most difficult because they're demanding, and it elevates both of our games. They may make unreasonable demands, but if we can counter with, okay, I see what you're trying to do, let's do this, and hopefully that'll achieve that. And the best clients are the ones that respect that and respect the process.
You were a business reporter. You and I both know how important, well, obviously both of us pitch business reporters now. You know how important data can be, and you told that great story about Visa and the tsunami. How important is data, numbers, objective information like that in story pitches?
Invaluable. And I'll give two examples. One of the things that, is one of the things PR people and companies have relied on for years is survey data. Survey data is great to a point, but if you've got data that can enhance that survey, that's like your own data, that no one else can provide, that can provide that third-party perspective, that's the stuff reporters are going to be interested in. Reporters don't necessarily want just survey data. But if you can combine it with your own data or your own story, that creates a picture, that shows the trend, that shows that you as the client are on top of your game, your business.
And sometimes the data is the story, right? It can be something as simple as 1 million people did this, or we raised X amount of money, or whatever that thing. But very often the data and the graphs that are sort of buried in those annual reports and everything else that sort of flies back and forth in corporate world, you can pick a nugget out of some of that data and be like, wait a minute, this is a cool story, because here's what it means to the people who are represented by the data, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And one of the great things is most companies don't realize the data they have. And one of the things I traditionally try to do, and we traditionally try to do when we start working with a new client, we're like, who's the data wonk in the company? Who's the guy who has the data that may be deep in the bowels of the company and no one talks to and doesn't do anything on the PR side? If you can get them on your side and show them what they have, you've got gold. And and sometimes the data or the information a company has, they don't realize is a story. One of the things that we do a sort of a client intake form. It's like, okay, what are some of the the sort of the man bites dogs thing in your company? Do you have a CEO with an interesting hobby? Do you have, does your CTO brew beer on weekends? And then you sort of, if you could connect that dot, the beer brewing CTO, with what the company does, that's something that a trade publication might be interested in.
Jumps right out, right? Almost
Yeah,
tells itself.
really
Speaking
does.
of gold, speaking of gold, let's talk about your other job that you have, which is video and video production. We know how important video is to our work as PR people, as storytellers, as communicators. How do you go about? You have an entire unit that produces video. What's
Mhm.
your view on video? How do you use it? How do you love to create it?
All yes to emphatic all the above. We actually started doing video during the pandemic, when everything shut down. We figured out, I think before even Zoom did, we figured out how to harness Zoom as a video tool. And our mantra was, okay, let's use Zoom to film interviews and get those stories, and whether it's a webinar or something. The end result is, let's make this Zoom video not look like a Zoom video. So we interspersed graphics and music and different angles, and we realized that video done well can be repurposed so many ways. And I'll give you an example of this. Let's say take a panel discussion produced on Zoom. You take a moderator, the CEO of your client, one of their customers, and maybe an analyst. So 4 people on Zoom. Let's interview them. Organic discussion on one topic. No one needs a long approval process. It's just open discussion. Once it's done, we edit it, and take the longest form and put that on their YouTube channel. But then we also repurpose. Let's do a video news release. Let's do a 2-minute version of this that we can send to reporters to show that the CEOs got their head screwed on right. Let's create 30-second highlight videos that they can put on the YouTube channel. Let's take the transcript and write a byline piece from this. So with that 1/2 hour discussion, we're able to create about 10 pieces of content that can be used, repurposed, and placed out into the world. And that's without having to jump through approval hoops, without having to check with legal on data numbers. As long as you don't say anything stupid or out of line with what you're supposed to say. But it's again, it's that narrative. It's talking about, it's not what I call chest thumpy PR. You're talking about an issue that's everyone's interested in. You're not talking about the company and how great it is. You're talking about something that people care about.
Yeah, far more authentic. And borrowing a phrase I think that Gary Vaynerchuk uses, document, don't create.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
It's a great philosophy. And once I get around to actually being able to do it, I'll be doing it more.
I've got these great videos that I want to produce for our company, and so they're on the back burner. They're never going to get done. I've got scripts written. I just got to put them all together, but clients come first.
Yep, absolutely. And there's only so much I can do with my iPhone here in the PR garage.
Yeah. But
Where's
that's the
video?
thing.
Go ahead.
Every person, every executive's got this great little camera on top of their laptop. It is high def. It's when you're lit and positioned the right way, it doesn't look like a hostage video. And you can do wonders with it. It's the foundation of great content.
Yeah, it's the TV studio in your pocket. It really is. And
Yeah.
especially for professional communicators like us, we have to know how to use that thing. And we can get fancier if we want, but you've got it in your pocket. It, like you said, it shoots, it edits, it distributes. You can do everything with that phone. So get used to using it if you aren't already. What creative ways are you using video to tell stories on social? What are some of the trends that you're seeing on social, aside from the platforms that seem to change every day? Are there new and interesting ways that you're using video to tell stories?
I think the biggest thing is like taking that long form content and just creating nuggets, but also being quick and on the fly. Don't underestimate, taking your phone out and taking like a 15-second shot of something at a conference you're seeing and putting it on social. Like I said, these things are gold in terms of video quality. It's 1080p, high def. You can interview a customer. You can, hey, this is a great, interesting booth I saw at the conference over the weekend. Put it out there and just engage. And if you have some video content that's visually interesting, people are going to click on that post, the tweet, that Instagram post, TikTok, whatever. They're going to look at it in a way that just text doesn't. Text and still photos don't necessarily do.
Yeah, no doubt. It is the supreme call to action as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Grabbing someone with video and rolling them right into doing something that you want them to do. It's fantastic. You and I could talk forever as two ex-reporters. We could talk for a very long time, but we got to move on through to the end of our podcast here.
Sure.
And talk about and segue actually into the rapid fire question portion of the show. This is where we steal a page from inside the actor studio. We ask our guests a series of rapid fire questions meant to elicit a simple answer, maybe a laugh or two. With your indulgence, Paul Wilke from Coachella Valley, California. Let's find out rapid fire question number 1. What's your favorite news source?
I like Google News. It kind of has everything there. It's got enough AI in there that it sort of customizes the content, but it gives me a good summary before I dive deep into the trade publications.
Yep, got to do it. Rapid fire question number 2. What's your favorite social media platform?
I hate to say it, but I still like Twitter.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm there. Rapid fire question number 3. Coffee or alcohol?
Both.
That's an effective answer. I love it. Rapid fire question number 4. What's your favorite on the run food?
I am a pizza guy. I could eat pizza 3 meals a day. I don't, but I could.
You and me both, man. And rapid fire question number 5. What do you want to be after you finish this career?
I want to be a kept man.
I love it. I love it. I could be down. I've joked with my wife often. I work here at home in the PR garage, but I joke with my wife often. I'm like, I could be stay at home, like kept man, like,
oh yeah.
I just manage the house. I'll do the laundry, make sure the food's good. I'm good.
That's a dream job. Hello, sugar mama,
Absolutely. Right. She's got a job, right? She can go out and take care of this. Well, Paul, this has been a fun conversation. Please let people know how they can find you online.
You can see us at walkingduck.com or uprightcoms.com, on X/Twitter. Same thing, Upright and Walking Duck. We're on Instagram. We're on all the social media places. You can also find my personal stuff. It's usually P. Wilke, Pwilke. Let me know you saw this, and we'll definitely engage. I love connecting with people on social media.
Sounds good, Paul. We will definitely be running into you out there. Thank you for being on the show today. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Please remember to subscribe to the show. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at the PR Podcast, and send us a question or a comment. Our intro is by Christopher Appold. You can find him and his fantastic photography on Instagram at Christopher_APPOLDT. Check him out there and hire him for all your photography needs. You can find me online at Jody Fisher on all the socials and on the web at jodyfisherpr.com. We'll see you next time on the PR Podcast.